Lately, there's been a lot of talk about creating a new type of money that countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa can use together. These countries are joining forces because they want to have more control over their money and not rely so much on the US dollar, which is currently the most powerful currency in the world. Soon, these countries' leaders will be getting together for a big meeting in South Africa from August 22 to 24. They'll be discussing a bunch of things, like how to make their group bigger and stronger. But one really important topic they'll be talking about is how they can trade with each other using their own money instead of always using the US dollar. This idea has actually been around for a while. These countries have wanted to be less dependent on the US dollar for over 10 years. But recently, something happened that made them want to take action even more. Russia did something that upset a lot of people by going into another country, Ukraine. In response, the US used its economic power to punish Russia by taking away a lot of its money and stopping Russian banks from using a system that helps them do business with other countries. All of this showed that relying too much on just one currency, like the US dollar, can be risky. So these countries in the BRICS group are thinking about creating their own new kind of money. This could help make the world's financial system stronger and more balanced. Now the idea of de-dollarisation gained even more attention and support after a significant event, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This move by Russia caused a lot of tension with other countries, including the United States. In response, the US took strong economic action against Russia. One of these actions was to freeze a massive amount of money that Russia had stored in other countries, almost $300 billion worth. This money was in different currencies, not just US dollars. But freezing it meant that Russia couldn't use it for international transactions or business deals. On top of that, the US also took a step to cut off some of Russia's connections to the global financial system. They removed Russian banks from SWIFT, which is like a super important messaging system for international money transfers. This made it much harder for Russian banks to do business with banks in other countries. All of this showed that the power of the US dollar in the global financial system can be used as a kind of weapon in international conflicts. It made the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, even more determined to find ways to be less dependent on the US dollar. So the idea of creating a new currency or using their own currencies more in their trading and financial transactions gained more support among these countries. They believe that by doing this, they can make their economies more stable and have more control over their financial interactions with the rest of the world. At the same time, there's a situation going on in the US that's catching the attention of other countries. The interest rates are going up, which affects how much it costs to borrow money. Also, there's this thing called the debt ceiling crisis, where the US government is having trouble agreeing on how much money it can borrow. This is making other countries worried. They're thinking about the money they've lent to the US, which is in dollars. If something really bad happens to the US economy, like if it can't pay back the money they owe, it could make the value of the US dollar go down, and that would be a problem for those countries. Now the thing is, before now, Russia has already been trying to de-dollarize because they're worried about the effects of sanctions. Now, even other countries like Brazil are saying they want to do the same thing. Basically, these countries are looking for ways to not depend so much on the US dollar because they're concerned about what might happen in the US. They want to be more in control of their own money and not have to rely on the US dollar so much. But is de-dollarization really possible? The move towards de-dollarization is gaining strength. However, this is not a simple or quick task due to various economic and political challenges that need to be overcome. Right now, more than 80% of the buying and selling that happens between countries is done using US dollars. Also, about 58% of the money that countries keep as a backup in case of emergencies is in US dollars. Even though the US dollar is really powerful, some experts think it's possible that a new kind of money used by BRICS countries could be used for trading between them. This time, de-dollarization might have a better chance because BRICS countries aren't aiming for a big shared currency like the euro. Instead, they're focusing on using their new currency mainly for trading with other countries. This makes the idea of a new currency between BRICS countries a more realistic and serious possibility. According to Joe Sullivan, who used to work as an economist for the White House, each of the BRICS countries is a big player in its own region. This means they have enough money to pay for the things they buy from other countries without having to borrow money from places like the US or the EU. Because of this, the countries in the BRICS group together sell more stuff to other countries than they buy from them. This gives them an advantage because they don't have to rely on loans from countries outside of BRICS. This makes it harder for other countries to have power over them. Another good thing is that these BRICS countries are spread out in different parts of the world. This means they can make a wider variety of things than other groups of countries. This opens up more chances to trade with different places. Some people are thinking that if a new currency for BRICS countries happens, it might cause problems with trade, like the US putting taxes on their goods. But experts say there are ways around this. For example, if the US stopped trading directly with China, China could still sell its stuff to a different country like Thailand or Vietnam. Then those countries could sell China's stuff to the US. This way, China's goods could still end up in the US without any direct trade between China and the US. However, there are challenges to consider. Making a single currency for all the BRICS countries would be quite tough. This is because these countries have complicated relationships and differences in how they handle money. Also, setting up a strong and trustworthy system to control this new currency would be a big task. A new currency for BRICS would also need something valuable to support it, like gold or other rare metals like copper. But for this currency to work well, the BRICS countries need to agree on how they'll decide its value compared to other currencies. They also need to have efficient ways to pay each other and a well-organized, stable, and easy-to-use financial system. Although it's unlikely that BRICS will create something exactly like the euro, they do seem interested in making a system that makes it easier to trade with each other across borders. So rather than making a completely new currency, they might focus on building a way to pay for things between their countries more smoothly. Now, since the concept of having a shared currency among BRICS nations and reducing reliance on the US dollar raises many questions, the upcoming August summit is expected to provide more clarity on these matters. While a complete shift away from the US dollar might not happen soon, the process to make it possible has already begun. In 2010, BRICS established the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism, aiming to make it easier for banks from these countries to do business using their own currencies. Additionally, there are reports that BRICS is working on something called BRICS Pay, a system for making payments between BRICS countries without needing to change their money into US dollars. Furthermore, as more countries express interest in joining the BRICS group, experts like Sullivan and Papa think this could bring new financial opportunities and help speed up the process of reducing reliance on the US dollar. Alright guys, that's a wrap for today. Do well to let us know what you think about this in the comment section below. Also, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more.